Hello, friends. Welcome to this wonderful evening of joy and devotion. Let's begin with a prayer. You can repeat responsively after me. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, Beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashai, Swami Shri Yukteswar, Beloved Guru, Paramhansa Yogananda, Saints of all religions, we lay flowers of devotion at your feet. Divine Beloved Krishna, be born in our hearts today. Help us forget all worries and preoccupations, to be engrossed in your presence within. Be drunk in the sheer joy of singing your holy name. Guide us home to thee. Om. Peace. Amen. Thank you all for joining us today, and those of you who are watching us online. So this is the celebration of the birth of Krishna. As all of you already know, this is a Hindu holiday that we celebrate every year. This year we celebrate yesterday and today. Both days are honored. They honor this holy occasion. And what we are going to do this evening is a lot of chanting and some storytelling, just tuning into the spirit of Krishna. So you will hear the chanters chant every once in a while. Feel free to sing along with them. One of them will repeat the words for you. If they're unfamiliar, you will still be able to sing along, as they will be very repetitive. This is a purely devotional evening. I invite all of you, whether or not you already have a relationship with Krishna, to tune into the form of the divine. In this particular vibration, Krishna is the beloved. He's the divine beloved. And there are so many stories from India of him walking on the banks of Jamuna, of all the different playtimes as a baby boy, and then obviously the story of the Mahabharata itself, where he plays a very particular role. So we'll be hearing some of that today, but also simply opening our hearts to receive his love. It's not a philosophical discourse or a discussion on anything that is abstract, but rather just an opening of heart. So I invite you, as you tune into the Masters on the Altar, the beautiful display of Krishna and all his glory, and to sing along as the chanters chant. We will begin with an invocation to God and Guru, and then I'll explain more of what we will do this evening.
Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tatsmai Shri Gurave
Let's take a brief moment of meditation now, centering ourselves, gathering our attention at the spiritual eye, the point between the eyebrows, sitting still, opening our hearts to receive the presence of the Divine Beloved. Om Shanti. So, this evening, as I was saying, we are going to tune into the presence of Krishna. We are going to hear some stories, but it's too short of a time to go through his entire life. There are three ways in which most commonly we relate to Krishna. Those of us who grew up in India obviously have a lot more association with this. But of course, any of you who are here and who perhaps have any familiarity, I'm sure you're also familiar with these three ways because they're not just about Krishna. It is about how we relate with the divine. There are more than three, but in Krishna's case, there are three forms that we often tune into. The first one is as the baby boy. That's what we are celebrating more than anything today. Krishna as the child when he's born, and then all his playtimes when he was a naughty little boy growing up in Vrindavan and Gokul and all these places which you can still visit in India. So that is the first form that we tune into Krishna. There is such sweetness in seeing the divine itself as a child, as our child, that we want to honor in that way. The second mode of worshiping Krishna is as the beloved. Again, an image that's far too familiar to all of us. Krishna and Radha is this iconic couple that we often see represented in art. And again, tuning into Krishna as our own beloved. When we tune into Krishna as beloved, we all become Radha, whether we are men, women, no matter who we are. And that is again a way in which we receive that presence of the divine. And then, later on in his life, the reason why Krishna incarnated, the story of Mahabharata itself, he plays the role of the guru. Oftentimes he is referred to as Jagat Guru, or the guru of this entire planet. And in that way, we tune into Krishna as that divine guide, as that intuitive guidance that is in our own hearts, that is guiding our wisdom. And that's the role he played when he was a charioteer for this warrior Arjuna, guiding him in this battlefield of Kurukshetra. So these three are the three most common modes in which we tune into Krishna as the boy, as the beloved, and as our own guru and dear friend. So this evening, we are going to approach it in these three sections. I'll share a few different stories. We'll see where the evening takes us. Just generally talking about these three forms and how we tune into Krishna. And we'll have some chanting with each section. Again, as I said, I invite all of you to sing along with us, to feel that devotion in your own heart, to feel that joy of offering yourself to your own beloved. Now, starting with Krishna as the child himself, as the baby that was born this beautiful, auspicious day. You know, not just Krishna, the avatars, when we say avatar, we are referring to the pure descent of divine consciousness. When a fully realized soul comes back to this earthly plane, not for any personal reason, but simply out of compassion to help all of us. In the Gita, Krishna says, every time, any time, vice predominates and virtue declines, I take human form and I incarnate on this plane. So it is something that repeats over and over again. And not just Krishna, but even many other great avatars, they don't incarnate in big palaces or with a lot of ostentatious settings or richness and wealth, but rather often in very humble circumstances, whether it's Jesus Christ in the manger or Krishna, who was actually born in a prison cell. So Krishna was born in this prison to his parents Devaki and Vasudeva. The way the story is told is Krishna had a maternal uncle. His name was Kamsa. And Kamsa was a ruler of a small kingdom in the northern part of India. And Kamsa was not a very righteous king. He was not very kind to his people. He was not always the best of rulers in terms of taking care of his own subjects. And so one day, he heard this voice of oracle coming from the skies, which said, "You will soon face your end. You will be killed by none other than the son of your own sister. She will have 8 children, and the 8th child will be the one who will put an end to your tyranny." So this is the voice he hears. And as soon as he hears it, obviously he's very concerned for his own life. The first thing he does, he imprisons his sister and her husband. So Kamsa's sister is Devaki, and her husband is this man named Vasudeva. Krishna is often called Vasudeva. I know to some of you they might sound like the same name, but those of you that are Indian, you will know they are different names. Krishna's father is Vasudeva. It doesn't matter. We won't get into that right now. And they're just different characters. That's why I mentioned that. So Devaki and Vasudeva are in prison, and year after years pass, and each year they have one child. For 7 years, they have 7 children. And as soon as the child is born, the guards inform Kamsa, and he immediately comes and takes their life. So this goes on for 7 long years, and Devaki and Vasudeva obviously are not very happy with that. Now, all of these stories are told, as we often know in Hindu mythology, they are deeply symbolic. All these different characters and even the 7 children that don't get to live, they symbolize certain aspects of consciousness. But this evening is not one of getting into all that philosophy, but just simply tuning into these beautiful stories and their sweetness. So Krishna is born as the 8th child. And as soon as Krishna is born, Vasudeva receives this message. God appears to Vasudeva, and he gives this message that this child is meant to live. He will not die on the hands of Kamsa. And this is what you're supposed to do with this child. You walk away out of this prison. All the guards are just going to pass out. They're going to become unconscious. The doors are going to open on their own, and you can walk out in the middle of the night. And that's what happened this beautiful day, hundreds of years ago, that Vasudeva heard this voice, and he took that tiny little baby in a basket. Just as Jesus was placed in a basket with hay, he took Krishna in this basket, and he walked out of the prison. It was pouring rain outside, and the Jamuna River that was in Mathura, this is where all of this happened. It is in the northern part of India. It was flooded. There was so much water, and the instruction given to him was he was going to take the child to the opposite bank of the river, to this place named Gokul, to Vrindavan, where there is this man named Nandagopa, and he also had a child at the same time. And Vasudeva is supposed to swap these 2 children. The child that was there and Krishna, he's going to swap the babies and bring the other baby back to the prison cell. So this is what he is doing on this stormy night. He's trying to cross the Jamuna River without any light, and he's protected and cared for, just as we all are when we follow the divine plan. And then he reaches this palace of this king, Nandagopa. He's also a ruler of this small kingdom. And there he finds this beautiful child that is laying on a cradle. This was his wife, Yashoda, had just given birth to this child. And so he swaps the 2 babies, and he brings the other baby back to his prison cell. And of course, as expected, Kamsa hears that there is a baby born. He assumes that the baby that is there is actually the 8th child that Devaki had. And he comes and he tries to take the life of that child. And as soon as he tries to kill that child, the child springs into this beautiful woman and goes up into the sky and starts speaking to Kamsa in the form of Divine Mother herself and says, "This is not the child that was born to take your life. I am somebody else. I am Divine Mother, and your end is near." And that's it. She vanishes. And so that child was not meant to be living on this plane. But now Krishna is growing up with his foster parents, his step-parents. They don't know that yet either, because they thought it was their child. So Yashoda and Nandagopa, these are the step-parents of Krishna who raised this wonderful child, God himself incarnated in divine form. There are so many stories that are told of Krishna as a naughty boy. And that's the most interesting part of Krishna's childhood, because he's not meek or mild, or he's not just the most studious kid in the school. He's not the one who's always following instructions. In fact, as the stories are told in India, he was so naughty. Constantly, women and people from every household, they used to knock on Yashoda's door to offer complaints. All the things that Krishna was doing, all his pranks, and how he was constantly stealing things, how he was disobeying, and he was just a big nuisance to everybody in the village. But Krishna was not just a naughty child. We have a word in Sanskrit for that. We call it Leela, because this entire world is a play for the divine. And that's what all of this was for Krishna, because he was no ordinary child. He knew what he was doing. He was fully aware. And yet he was playing with all of these devotees of his. They had all incarnated at the same time. All these people that came in contact with him, they all came for a reason. And by this time, Kamsa also knew. He's got an inkling. He figures out that this baby has been swabbed, and then there is another baby, and he somehow is suspicious. He can feel that this child that is growing up in this other village across the Jamuna is perhaps the 8th child of Devaki who is meant to kill him. So he also starts plotting. He recruits a lot of demons. That's how the stories are told. One after another, he sends them over to Gokul in order to take Krishna's life. And I'm not going to go into each and every story right now, but there are so many stories of how Krishna takes each of their life. Again, these are all symbolic in a way, but also instructive and also just cute. Just imagining this baby boy fighting all these demons and establishing order and virtue in the small little village. This boy who's a cowherd, that's the family that he's born into. Although he's a king, his father, he's not a king in the sense of a noble ruler. He's actually the king of cowherds, and this is a village where cows thrive. So Krishna is playing his flute. This is the image that we often see of him taking the cows to the pastures every day with his brother Balarama, who was the son of Nandagopa. So they both grow up together, and all of their pastimes, playing with each other and just creating a havoc in the village for the most part. There are 2 stories I'll share because they're so sweet, but also illustrative of what Krishna was and what he means to us even as that child. There's one story told of when Krishna was playing outside in the yard. He swallows sand, which is something that babies often do, as most of you might know. And he swallows sand, and Yashoda is often frustrated with him. She doesn't know how to deal with this child. He is much more than she can handle. And immediately she runs out and she tries to discipline him. And as mothers would often do, she forces his mouth open and she wants him to spit all the sand out. God knows what you're eating. And then she tells Krishna, open your mouth and show me. What do you have in there? Open your mouth and show me. You got to spit it out. And as soon as she says that, Krishna does open his mouth. And what she sees is all of the universe, all the different worlds and planets and star systems and galaxies, all of it in his own mouth. Again, these stories, as I was saying, we are not exploring the philosophy of it today, but it's symbolic. Because how can a tiny mouth show all of the universe? I'm in fact on this planet Earth and this child is here. You cannot calculate all of this with your mind. But what she was actually receiving from Krishna was this cosmic experience. The stories are told that way, but in fact that was the time when Yashoda actually realized he gave her an experience in cosmic consciousness where she could see that all of creation is contained within this one child, that he is no ordinary child, that what I'm seeing in his mouth, what I'm experiencing now is not a normal human experience. It's not something I'm seeing with my eyes. How could you see planets and star systems inside a baby's mouth? What she was having was an experience in cosmic consciousness. There is another beautiful story, which is perhaps even more relevant to all of us, of Yashoda and Krishna. As a baby boy, Yashoda is often trying to discipline Krishna, and then Krishna does something very, very naughty. I don't quite remember what it is. But now she cannot deal with it anymore. She brings the boy inside, and she wants to tie him to this big stone, the stone pestle that is traditionally used in India. So she's looking for a rope. She's looking for a rope to tie this child to this big rock so that he wouldn't run away, so that he wouldn't just be as naughty as he's always being and he's not creating more confusion and problems. So she goes around looking for a rope, and she brings a very long rope to tie Krishna to this rock. And Krishna is pinned to this rock, and then she tries to tie the rope around him, and she realizes the rope is running a little short. So she goes and she finds a bigger rope and she brings it in, and now she's sure that this rope will be sufficient in order to tie Krishna to this rock. And then she finds out, even this is small. And this is a boy, this is a tiny little rock, this is a baby. And then she does that over and over again. She ties two ropes together. No matter what she does, the rope is always a little bit short. Now, how is that even possible? It's a child, it's a rock. And she realizes that she cannot, in fact, tie Krishna to this rock at all. Again, that story is told for all of us, for us to realize no matter how hard we try, our limited human understanding can never grasp the divine. Like that rope, we always keep imagining, if I could only get that, if I could get this, if I could just understand this particular principle, if I could practice this technique, then I will get it. But God cannot be grasped that way. Yashoda realizes that Krishna can be charmed only with love, that no rope is going to be big enough, no rational understanding, nothing that the mind can think of, can comprehend, can ever grasp the divine. So, with that now, we will chant a few chants, thinking of Krishna as the baby boy. Again, please sing along with us, and let's tune into his presence as that naughty little child playing with all of us, yet he is God incarnate. So
the words to this first chant, Devaki Nandana Gopala. Gopala,
Let's take a brief moment of meditation now, just for the next minute. Drawing that heart energy from the chanting up to our spiritual eye, offering it at the feet of Krishna. Chanting is such a powerful practice. Yogananda ji often used to say chanting is half the battle because it raises the energy of the heart. It helps us open to receive the presence of the divine. That's what Yashoda was trying to do with her mind with that rope that was never sufficient. And she had to tune into Krishna in her own heart. Now we come to the second mode of tuning into Krishna as the beloved. Again, you might have noticed, if not, you can see even in the altar there are 3 niches. There you have Yashoda and Krishna as the baby boy. And here you have Krishna and Radha. Radha is the beloved of Krishna. As Krishna grows up, as the story goes along, obviously he's meant to be killing Kamsa, his own uncle, who is not being a great ruler of the nearby kingdom. And that happens in its own course. But as he's growing up in Gokul, Gokul is the small village. These are places that you can still visit today in India. And there is this nearby village called Vrindavan. And when you think of Krishna, you always think of Vrindavan because Krishna grew up in Gokul, but he hung out mostly in Vrindavan because that's where his girlfriend lived. That's where Radha grew up. And so he was always drawn to the presence of Radha. Krishna was very charismatic. All the women, all the gopis, that's what we call them, all the women in these villages were all drawn to him. Everybody wanted to be near Krishna, wanted to play with him. As he was, of course, growing up to be a teenager and then a young man, everybody was drawn to him. He was playing the flute. That's how the image, it's a beautiful image, Krishna standing with these 3 curves in his body with his crossed feet, and he's playing the flute, and everybody, just like bees attracted to the lamp, they're all being drawn to him. And he, of course, he is playing with all of them, the maidens, but also he's drawn specifically to one of them, and that is Radha. The Indian scriptures say, and also Yogananda ji often spoke about it, about how all these gopis that played with Krishna in Vrindavan, they were all high saints, they were all sages and great saints from the past who incarnated in these female forms just to be with Krishna. So there are all these descriptions of how they spent their time together. A beautiful image, it's called Rasa Leela. You can find these paintings. There's a common imagery that you will find represented in paintings. You see Krishna playing his flute right in the middle of a circle, and then around the circle, you see many, many forms of Krishna. And each gopi is dancing with her own Krishna. Every gopi has a Krishna of her own, and there is also a Krishna at the center. This image is so common in India. You see it represented in architecture, in wall paintings, in murals, and a lot of art that is even done today. And it communicates something that is so powerful that the mind cannot understand, which is God is not singular in that way. God is center everywhere, circumference nowhere. He's centered with every gopi who is calling to him with love. No gopi is diminished because he's playing with somebody else. They're all having fun with him, but they're not jealous. They're not just upset because he's now with this other gopi, because he's equally with each one of them, because he's held by the magnet of their own heart. And then there is Radha. And then there's Radha, who Krishna is always pursuing. And there is a beautiful imagery to this pursuit even. Radha and Krishna symbolize so many things. But what is most sweet and poignant for all of us to think about, again, described in the Indian tradition and the stories all the time, is Radha symbolizes devotion. She is a symbol for bhakti. And all these gopis are seeking Krishna, and he is always seeking Radha. And that's the story that unfolds. As Krishna grows up, Master used to often say, God has everything. The only thing he doesn't have is the love of our heart, which he will have only if we choose to give it to him. So, and in fact, even more beautifully, for those of you that are familiar with the story, Krishna actually does not end up marrying Radha. They don't end up together. They are this iconic couple. As soon as you think of Krishna, you think of Radha. They're always playing together. They're always depicted as a couple. They're always seen in these pictures with each other. But can you just imagine? They did not actually end up together. Krishna ends up going to Mathura to kill Kamsa, his maternal uncle, and then obviously he's victorious there. And then one thing leads to another. He even moves to a very different part of the country, establishing a great empire in the western part of India. And throughout all of this time, Radha is still living in Vrindavan. Radha never leaves Vrindavan throughout her life. And that's how the stories are told. And it is poignant because in the human sense, we think of that as somehow that love not being consummated, somehow it is not having reached its goal. But in the truest sense, it is Krishna who is always pursuing that devotion. That union is the liberation of soul itself. Because we always celebrate Radha's union with Krishna because that's what we are all aspiring towards. And Krishna, even today, he's seeking that. He's seeking that devotion of our own hearts, that bhakti in the form of Radha. In fact, even today, I remember some of us are planning a trip to India and I'm going to go to Vrindavan, and it's a place that has a lot of fond memories for me. I've traveled there many times. And one of the times I was there, certainly not the first time, but I remember I was going on a cycle rickshaw. This was a very old part of the town, and I don't know if they still exist or not. At least they did about 15 years ago. And this is a hand-pull rickshaw. It's somebody is cycling, and people are sitting on the back. So there's no motor, there's no fuel. He's just, moving us with his own muscle power. And he was navigating this very, very busy market street. And it was so crowded with vendors and so many cows and this and that. There was no way to even walk there. He had to just yell at every single person. And this man that was my rickshaw driver, he was not yelling any random word, or he was not calling to people. He would always say, Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. He would just keep yelling as he drives this cart going through Vrindavan. I didn't get it. I didn't quite understand. And then I realized as I was spending a few days, I think I might have spent at least 2 or 3 days there, I noticed that everybody refers to each other as Radha in Vrindavan. Especially in that city, you always call everyone, just random strangers, you'll always call them Radha, because it is symbolizing that same principle, because we are all, in our own essence, that feminine principle in us is seeking that union with Krishna. That union has not happened yet. We are all waiting for that day when we will unite with Krishna. And that story is so immortal. There is a beautiful story from the autobiography of a yogi. There's a saint named Mirabai who lived 1,000 years after Krishna. These avatars, they come, but their presence obviously is not limited by time. They are still with us in the same way that Krishna played in Vrindavan. We can go to Vrindavan today or even here with us right now. That presence is always there. Just as St. Francis could tune into Jesus and receive a stigmata 1,000 years after Jesus left his body. The same way, Meera was a beloved. Meera imagined herself as Radha, always in love with Krishna. Meera was actually a princess. She was born in the western part of India, and she was born into a royal family. At a very, very young age, this holy man came to the palace, and he gave her this idol of Krishna. And she fell in love with this idol, and she was constantly adoring and worshipping and just singing to this idol of Krishna. That was her beloved. This holy man had actually come from the city of Vrindavan. So she knew one day she wanted to go to Vrindavan and she wanted to meet her beloved there. But until then, this idol that she was going to keep, that was going to be Krishna for her. A lot of things happen. Her life story in itself is so inspiring. She's married into a royal family, but then everybody considers her crazy because she's constantly in love with Krishna, constantly singing his name, not paying attention to any worldly details. And finally, she realizes this is not going to work out. I just have to walk out of this palace. So she does that. She just wears an orange garb and she walks out of the palace. She becomes a renunciate for Krishna. And then she goes to the city of Vrindavan because she goes on this long pilgrimage, walking from where she is to the holy city of Vrindavan to meet Krishna and where he played with Radha. And she's looking for this holy man who actually gave her this idol because she considers him her guru. And this is a story that Master shares in the autobiography of a yogi. When she reaches his ashram, the disciples tell her, our guru, he met you when you were a very young girl. he could do that at that time, but he is so austere. He lives such a renunciate life that he does not actually meet adult women. He would not make eye contact with them, and he would not actually greet them. So we are very sorry to tell you that you cannot come to the ashram. And then Meera has this sweet response to that. I didn't know there was any man in this whole universe except Krishna. And immediately the Guru realizes this is not an ordinary soul that has come. This is somebody who's so advanced and so devotional that he could go receive her. So with that, I actually invite Atmajyoti to share a beautiful reading from Yogananda's writings on Krishna from the Whispers, and then we'll have another section of chanting.
This is from Whispers from Eternity.
You can come here.
By Paramhansa Yogananda. And it's called Come to Me as Krishna, the Divine Cowherd. O Krishna, Lord of Hindustan, I sorrowed by the lonely Jumna River, where thy flute notes thrilled the air and led lost calves to their divine home. O lotus of love, musing on the sad absence of thy delusion-dispelling eyes, I saw thine invisible spirit take form, frozen by my devotion's frost. Thy divine body of blue light walked with feet of eternity on the banks of my mind, planting there the lasting footprints of divine realization. I am one of those lost calves which followed thy flower footprints on the shoals of time. Listening to the melody of thy flute of wisdom, I now follow the middle path of calm activity by which thou hast led many through the portals of their dark past into the eternal light. Since all souls belong to thy fold, whether we move forward, are sidetracked, or are hemmed in, unmoving, in the fogs of disbelief, O divine Krishna, lead us back to thy unfolding shed of everlasting freedom. O Krishna, thou reignest supreme on the heart throne of all those who know thy love. O Krishna, thou reignest supreme on the heart throne of all those who know thy love.
The words to this chant, my mind is always floating on the thought of my Lord, Krishna playing his flute on the banks by the blue river. My mind is always floating on the thought of my Lord. My mind is always floating on the thought of my Lord. Krishna playing his flute on the banks by the blue river. Words to this next chant: Govinda Jai Jai, Gopala Jai Jai, Radha Ramana Hari, Govinda Jai Jai. Govinda Jai Jai, Gopala Jai Jai, Govinda Jai Jai, Gopala Jai Jai, Radha Ramana Hari, Govinda Jai Jai, Radha Ramana Hari, Govinda Jai Jai, Govinda Jai Jai, Gopala Jai Jai, Govinda Jai Jai, Gopala Jai Jai, Radha Hari Govinda Jai Jai, Radha Hari Govinda Jai Jai, Govinda Jai Jai, Gopala Jai Jai, Govinda Jai Jai, Gopala Jai Jai, Radha Hari Govinda 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 Jai Jai. My Krishna is blue, the tamil tree is blue. My Krishna is blue, the tamil tree is blue. So I do love thee, tamil tree. So I do love thee, my tamil tree. And when I die, oh mother, do put me high on a branch of the tamil tree, on a branch of the tamil tree, where Krishna sat, there I would die. Where Krishna sat, there I would die, on a branch of the tamil tree, on a branch of the tamil tree. My Krishna is blue, the tamil tree is blue. My Krishna is blue, the tamil tree is blue. So I do love thee, tamil tree. So I do love thee, my tamil tree. And when I die, oh mother, do put me high on a branch of the tamil tree, on a branch of the tamil tree, where Krishna sat, there I would die. Where Krishna sat, there I would die, My Krishna is blue, the tamarind tree is blue, so I do love thee, tamarind tree. So I do love thee, my tamarind tree. And when I die, oh mother, do put me high on a branch of the tamarind tree, on a branch of the tamarind tree, where Krishna sat, there I would die, where Krishna sat, there I would die, on a branch of the tamarind tree, on a branch of the tamarind tree. My Krishna is blue, the tamarind tree is blue. My Krishna is blue, the tamarind tree is blue. So I do love thee, tamarind tree. So I do love thee, my tamarind tree. And when I die, oh mother, do put me high on a branch of the tamarind tree, on a branch of the tamarind tree, where Krishna sat, there I would die, where Krishna sat, there I would die, on a branch of the tamarind tree, on a branch of the tamarind tree, on a branch of the tamarind tree.
Let's take those words deep within. It's a traditional Bengali chant that Yogananda translated into English, where Krishna sat, there I would die. When I die, O mother, do put me high on a branch of the tamal tree. The tamal tree is a specific kind of tree that actually has a blue bark that grows around the region of Vrindavan. And it is said that Krishna would sit on the branch of this tree and play his flute. We come to the last form, or rather for this evening, not necessarily the last, of tuning into Krishna as the Guru. If we cannot comprehend fully the baby boy and the beloved, what can we speak of the Guru? We can barely grasp with our minds, with anything that we can think or understand. It's impossible. And by the time Krishna becomes an emperor, he establishes this kingdom in the western part of India called Dwaraka. And it becomes pretty clear to everyone that this is no ordinary man, this is no ordinary king, this is divine incarnate. And Krishna's life is full of miracles, of course, even as a naughty boy. But at this stage, when he is a big ruler, emperor in the story of the Mahabharata, as he enters the story, it is pretty clear that this is no ordinary man. And he plays a very important role. We are not going to get into the whole story of Mahabharata right now, but as we all know, it is a battle between the Pandavas and the Kaurava brothers. They are cousins. They are cousins who are fighting for the kingdom. And as the gurus of this lineage interpreted, as Larry Masha gave this beautiful commentary on the Gita, all the different characters in the story are symbolic of certain aspects of our own consciousness. Every single character in that story, the Pandavas, the Kauravas, and even all the small little characters that come and go, they all represent something in our own minds, in our own consciousness. And Krishna represents the Guru. Krishna represents the awakened energy at this point in the body, this yogic power of intuition, our own ability to tune into the divine that descends into that form to guide us. That's what Krishna represents. And the Pandava brothers, who are the good guys, as most of you know who are familiar with the teachings of Yogananda, they represent the upward flowing energy in the 5 spinal centers, the first 5 chakras in the body, and Krishna represents the 6th. And they are all oriented towards Krishna. All of them are constantly pointed towards Krishna. He's guiding them every step of the way, including at the battlefield with Arjuna. Arjuna is his beloved disciple who, he rides a chariot for Arjuna. He becomes a charioteer in order to guide him in this battlefield. There are so many stories from the Mahabharata that illustrate, the beautiful relationship that the Pandavas had with Krishna, especially the wife of the Pandava brothers, Draupadi. She was, again, as Yoganandaji explains, Draupadi represents the Kundalini energy that is awakening. And she is the one who is instrumental in taking down the Kauravas. It is because of her resolution that even this all ends up in the battle of Mahabharata, and finally the Pandavas are able to take charge of the kingdom. She plays such an important role, and she is constantly directed towards Krishna. Of course, symbolically speaking, but even in the story itself, even on the most literal level, he plays that role of a guru, but as a friend. He is the cousin to everybody. That's how, everybody in India is a cousin. We call, your mother's siblings, sister's son, or your mother's cousin's daughter's son. Everybody's a cousin. So let's not get into how they're related. But he's related to everybody. Because why wouldn't he be? Krishna is related to all of us. Krishna is related to every character in the story, and he's a cousin to everyone. And that's who he is. And everybody on the side of the Pandavas is deeply, deeply devoted to him. It is because of his presence and his guidance that they all are able to navigate that battlefield. There is no logic. There's no logic as to why they would even win this battlefield. In the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, Vyasa says, their armies are innumerable, and the Pandava armies are smaller. Even all of Krishna's forces, they side with the Kauravas. Only Krishna, who wouldn't wield a weapon on the battlefield, he's the only one who is on the Pandava side. So there is no comparison between the two. It almost seems self-evident to Duryodhana that they are going to win this battle, but they don't, because Krishna is on the side of the Pandavas. There are so many examples of how, in fact, Krishna steps in even in his own power as the divine. He steps in to protect his disciples, his devotees, again and again. The entire scripture of Bhagavad Gita is that comfort. There is the beautiful story. I'll perhaps just share this one. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this, but it's just so poignant to revisit all of this on this beautiful day, of the game of dice. When the Pandavas and the Kauravas are playing this game of dice that they're invited to, and everything is at stake. The maternal uncle of the Kaurava brothers, his name is Shakuni, and he, Yoganandaji said, represents attachment. He draws both these forces into this game of dice. And as the story describes, the dice is loaded. The dice is already loaded. Even before the game begins, it is pretty clear who's going to win. The Kauravas are going to win this game. It is pretty self-evident. In the battlefield, the same way it is clear who's going to win, because Vyasa says Krishna is on this side, so that side is going to ultimately win at the end of those 18 days. But when they enter the game of dice, the dice is loaded, because that game represents the material plane. It is this plane of duality, and in this plane, it is always tilted in favor of delusion. So no matter how well the Pandavas play the game, they are ultimately bound to lose. And that's what happens. They keep rolling dice one round after another. They're playing with smaller bets, and then they lose their kingdom, they lose their own self-will, they lose their crown, they lose all their possessions, and including their own wife Draupadi, who becomes a pawn in this game. And Draupadi, who is so devoted to Krishna, she is a force of nature. Draupadi, in the story of Mahabharata, she's not even born of a mother. She's born of fire. She comes out of the fire as a fully grown adult woman, because she represents that Kundalini energy. She is already fully mature when she comes onto this plane. There is no birth for Draupadi. She is a force that cannot be controlled. And she has been governing, and she has been dictating this whole narrative all this while. And suddenly she finds herself in this palace, in the court, in the front of everyone. The Kaurava brothers drag her there, and they abuse her. They take away her honor. She is being disrobed in front of everybody. And then she realizes no amount of will, no amount of control, no amount of intellect or any power that I can exert can rescue me. The only thing that can rescue me is complete surrender. And that's where Krishna steps in. Until that point, throughout this whole story, they're all seeking guidance, they're all praying, they're all wishing that there would be an intervention. They're all hoping, they're all praying to God, next time you roll the dice, maybe this will be a different round. Maybe we will win this time. Maybe this won't go the wrong way. Krishna, will you not help me? But he cannot. It's not that Krishna is withholding his power. He cannot come in. He cannot step in. And ultimately, when everything is taken away, there is nothing left, Draupadi decides, there is nothing to fight for here. I am yours. You have to save me. There is nothing that I can do. There is no will that I can invest. I give everything to you. I give my own self in your hands. And immediately the whole atmosphere shifts. Immediately they all keep, for those of us who have seen televised versions of the story growing up, you just see Draupadi, she's brought into the court, she's being abused by Dushasana. Dushasana represents anger. Yogananda ji said, and he always comes into play anytime Duryodhana is thwarted. Duryodhana represents material desires. And so Dushasana comes in because Duryodhana has faced a defeat, and now Dushasana is going to abuse that God-given potential, but he cannot destroy it. He cannot take it down because Draupadi is divine in nature, and she's always protected by Krishna. So you see this depiction, Draupadi standing there and they're trying to disrobe her, they're trying to pull her sari, and then there's Krishna, somewhere in CGI, he's appearing on the skies, and then there's fabric flowing out of his hands, and then that is now going to wrap around Draupadi, and Dushasana just keeps pulling and pulling and pulling, and there's piles of fabric all around Draupadi, and still she's fully clothed, her honor is intact. And that all happens because she ultimately surrenders at his feet, and that is the point where everything in the story shifts. The game goes on and on and on, and Krishna cannot step in until Draupadi is able to completely surrender. So with that, we will end the stories for this evening. We'll do a couple of more chants, and then we will do an arti, and then we will have our prasad offering, maybe 10 or 15 more minutes. So we will do maybe one chant, and then we will do the arti. we'll move into our final arti now. An arti is a festival of light we offer to the divine here. I'll start by waving the light in front of the divine. It is symbolic of illuminating that principle. All of us focus our attention at the altar, at the form of the deities, tuning into that form of Krishna, and of course all the other gurus who are all present with us here. And I'll also invite others, a few of them, to offer different elements as part of the arati at the altar. And before we do that, we can start chanting. First, we will offer the prasad, the food that we'll serve outside in just a bit. So if you want to bring the food, we can start chanting. And we will just keep offering. You will follow along. It'll be pretty simple. And once it is all over, you're all welcome to come to the altar. You can just hold it.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Let's end with a prayer and then we will go outside to the piazza and share prasad together. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashai, Swami Shri Yukteswar, Paramhansa Yogananda, saints of all religions, we humbly bow to you all. Divine beloved Krishna, awaken your love in all our hearts. Be with us always. Help us to share your love with everyone we meet. Om Peace. So friends, now for the best part. Give us a few minutes, we will get outdoor set up, and even if you cannot say, please do take prasad home with you.